The type of slavery that exists today is much different from what it used to be. The masters no longer require whips and chains. Instead, they condition the slaves, workers, to be obedient and do meaningless, redundant tasks from the age of 4 all the way until they are 22. That's 1/4 of their life spent being conditioned. They are conditioned to listen to authority without question, to perform redundant, meaningless tasks, homework, to show up on time, to follow a schedule, and most importantly, do a good job, or suffer the consequences, aka receive a low grade. Now, if you're going to spend 1/4 of your life dedicated to learning skills and spending time on something, you would expect you would get something meaningful out of it. But oftentimes, school teaches things that aren't well correlated to skills needed in the real world. The core curriculum doesn't focus on teaching people how money works, which is how society works. Money is the tool used to enslave citizens and is the core component of the matrix. It's important to understand how money really works if you intend on freeing yourself from the system. Money has evolved from what it used to be, just like slavery has evolved from what it used to be. Are you noticing a correlation? Money used to be physical in the form of gold and silver coins. The value was based on the amount of metal they contained. The exchange of value was fair. Since it took work to mine and gather gold and silver, the coin had inherent value. So when you exchanged it for a good or service, they were getting something of actual value. Nowadays, money is a concept. Money, like the US dollar, has no inherent value. The work required to create a dollar can happen with the click of a button, and the supply of dollars has no cap, since most of the currency is digital and not even backed with the one correlation of paper dollars. The only reason a dollar has value is that people believe it has value. If I trade my dollars for a good or service, the guy receives dollars in which he believes he will be able to further exchange for goods or services of his liking. Now, this is similar to how it might work with even older currencies. But a key component is that in the old currency, you could trust it took actual work to obtain the currency. Since it took actual work to mine the currency from the ground, that would be the baseline value for the currency. Nowadays, currency is being created out of thin air and distributed into the hands of the elites. This increase in purchasing power is unevenly filtered to the top because the elites don't own dollars, they own assets. The value of an asset goes up with inflation because with an increase in purchasing power, the use of that causes more purchasing of an asset, which drives down supply and thus the price increases. Not to mention that salaries don't tend to actually increase in line with inflation. Even so, think of it like this: if you are unable, if you need to purchase consumables to survive, you won't be able to. You would need to invest all the money you earned in the past to avoid the devaluing of your work. Otherwise, the work you did is being overwritten by inflation. In an even longer term, the work of your ancestors likely has been completely overridden by inflation if they did not pass down any assets to you. This is how they keep you trapped like a mouse on a wheel. The price of living continues to go up, aka the value of the dollar is going down, and the work you did in the past is no longer as valuable as it was. So how do you avoid being caught in this trap? Well, it is relatively simple to invest your money. The S&P 500, an overall indicator of market performance, historically doubles every 7 years. Now the market is volatile. So in down markets, the rich will reinvest and hold their assets. This is something not all people can do. So you have to make sure you are in it for the long term when you invest in the markets. Another trap that you can get into is a debt trap. The system understands that you need an incentive to work, otherwise you would break free. So, let me lay it out straight for you. The system creates wealth out of thin air and loans this out to you in the form of a student loan or a home loan. You use this money, which stimulates the economy and ends up in the hands of the elites. You, in turn, have to pay interest on this loan and work to pay off the principal, aka giving the banks real value in exchange for created value. In a lot of cases, people never actually break free from their debts. They end up having to pay the banks back for their entire lives, giving them a real value, which is to work all in exchange for a figment of everyone's imagination. So I said that the banks will give you created money. You must be thinking, but wait, that's not how it works. The banks have money and they can only loan out the money people have put into the bank, right? Introducing fractional reserve banking, as known as American banks being able to loan out 10x. the amount of money they actually have in reserves. This money is literally created out of thin air. Okay, now you have a basic understanding around the system of money and how this keeps you entrapped as a slave. So now you're asking yourself, if this is truly the case, how do I break free? Is it even worth it to break free? I will say it's not like slaves really have the option to break free. Maybe if you went and lived off-grid, you could escape, go back to relying on the basics of food, water, and shelter, but that is not a life many are willing to live. And I'm sure that most of you are at least somewhat happy with your current conditions, just as I'm sure the slaves of old times were somewhat happy with their conditions. I guess it's not all too bad to be a slave. However, I intend on making this a channel of spiritual enlightenment and belief. This is the true way to escape the matrix. It is to realize you are an infinite soul living a human experience. And when you realize that and connect with your higher self, you can be led to the greatest wealth and riches that exist in this world. I do not doubt that the elites have knowledge of this as well and use it to maintain their position at the top of society. Groups like the Freemasons or Illuminati. Manifestation is one of the powers of your higher self. Also, your emotional guidance system, otherwise known as intuition, are all powers you can draw on in this human experience. For now, all I ask is that you like and subscribe if you believe others could benefit from listening to my video and embark on the journey of being the best version of yourself.